The leather-bound book sat in the passenger seat like a live wire, humming with some invisible current I didn't yet understand. It was her diary. I knew it was. Deep brown cover, frayed at the corners, soft with use. She always said she wrote little stories in there, fiction she'd one day turn into a novel. I never touched it. Out of respect. Out of love. But that night, something was different. We had just come back from dinner, quiet, unremarkable. She kissed me on the cheek, said she was tired, and headed up to bed. I stayed behind, told her I needed to return some emails. That's when I saw it. She never left that thing anywhere. Ever. Not even at home, let alone in the car. I didn't open it. I told myself I wouldn't. I sat there for maybe 15 minutes, staring at it like it might blink. I even reached to put it in the glove compartment, thinking I'd hand it to her in the morning. Then I saw the name. His name. Scrawled in her neat, looping handwriting on the very first page. To Caleb, what we have is real, even if the world can't see it. I read it twice, hoping I'd misunderstood. Caleb. A name I hadn't heard in months, but one that hit me in the chest like a steel-toed boot. Caleb was her coworker. Or ex-coworker, I should say. She told me he'd moved to a different department months ago, that she barely saw him anymore. At the time, I nodded. Believed her. Because I always did. The page was dated. Yesterday. I flipped the book open slowly, like it might scream. I wasn't even trying to be quiet anymore. The car was dark, the house behind me asleep. My hands trembled. It wasn't fiction. It wasn't even disguised as fiction. Page after page, line after line. Her words cut through me like broken glass. His hand grazed mine at the meeting today, and I felt it again, that electric hum. He says he dreams of a life where we don't have to hide. I told him I do too. Mark still thinks I'm just tired. I hate that I'm lying to him, but what choice do I have? Mark. That's me. She used my name like I was a side character. A detour. The man she lived with while dreaming of someone else. My mouth went dry. I wanted to close the book, to pretend I hadn't seen it. But the truth had already sunk its claws into me. I couldn't look away. Her entries were poetic, almost beautiful in a sickening way, like watching a sunset from a burning house. I'd always admired the way she could articulate things I could never put into words. But now those same words painted me as an obstacle in her story. A placeholder. Caleb brings me coffee now and then, says it's just to be nice, but I know it's more. The way he looks at me, it's the way Mark used to. I don't know when that changed. I do. It was subtle. A slow erosion. The kind you don't notice until the shore is gone. At first, it was fewer texts during the day. Then no more goodnight kisses. Then her phone was always face down. The laughter that used to bubble between us turned into silence, then sighs, then nothing. And I thought it was just life. Work stress, burnout, marriage fatigue. We all go through it, don't we? But reading that diary, I realized something deeply painful. I had been loyal to a version of her that no longer existed. Maybe hadn't for a long time. The entry from last week was the one that stopped me cold. We talked about running away again. He says he found a place in Asheville, something small but cozy. Sometimes I let myself believe we could just go. Leave everything behind. Mark wouldn't understand, but maybe he'd be better off. Maybe he'd be better off. She was planning a life without me in it. With someone else. And the worst part? She told herself it was for my own good. I closed the book, set it back on the seat like it might bite me, and just sat there. The quiet in that moment wasn't peace. It was absence. Like the sound after a car crash. You're not dead, but you're not really alive either. For the first time in years, I realized I didn't know the woman I married. Or maybe I did, and I just didn't want to believe she was capable of this. And still, a small, stupid part of me wanted to run upstairs, shake her awake, and ask her to tell me it was all fiction. That it was just a story she'd made up. A writing exercise. Something she'd read in a dream. I needed it to be fiction. But it wasn't. It was dated. Yesterday. And fiction doesn't wear perfume that only he likes. Fiction doesn't come home late and lie about traffic. Fiction doesn't stop kissing you when you make coffee in the morning. No. Fiction doesn't know your name. And it sure as hell doesn't call you a detour. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't go upstairs. I just sat in the driveway, in the cold hush of October, with the engine off and the diary beside me, like some cursed relic. My thoughts looped around the same question like a stuck record. Why wasn't I enough? That question will haunt a man more than the betrayal itself. Not the physicality of it. Not her hand in his. or the imagined kiss in some dimly lit hotel hallway. No, the real wound comes from wondering why the person who once looked at you like you were her entire world now looks past you. I watched the sun rise behind the neighbor's roofline before I finally moved. Not inside, but to the park down the road, the one where we used to walk our dog before he passed. She cried when he died. I held her. I thought that meant something. I sat on the same bench where she once leaned her head on my shoulder and said she wanted to grow old with me. I should have burned the diary right there. I should have lit a match and let the lies curl into smoke. But I didn't. I read it again. Not to punish myself. To understand. That's the thing most people don't get. It's not rage that comes first, it's confusion. I need to understand. Because if I could understand it, maybe I could survive it. But her words weren't cold. That's what broke me. They were tender. Intimate. She described him the way she used to describe me. His sense of humor, his voice, the way he said her name. She painted him in colors I hadn't seen in our marriage in years. And then she wrote this. Sometimes I wonder if I ever truly loved Mark, or if I just loved the way he made me feel when everything else was falling apart. He was safety. He was structure. But I don't want safety anymore. I want to feel alive again. That one did it. I closed the book like a slammed door and stared out at the empty park. Safety. That was what I had become. A fortress. A paycheck. A place to come home to when the world got too loud. She didn't fall out of love with me. She outgrew the version of me that stood still while she changed. Or at least, that's what she told herself. I didn't go home that night either. I checked into a cheap motel on the edge of town. Faded curtains. Stale sheets. No judgment. It gave me space to think. To replay every harmless moment I had brushed off over the last year. Like the day she came home late and said she ran into Caleb at the store. They grabbed a coffee, just caught up. No big deal. Or when I offered to come to her office party and she hesitated. Said it would be boring, full of shop talk. Even the new dress she bought last month. The one she said was just for herself. She never wore it for me. At some point, I stopped being part of the moments that lit her up. At the motel, I scribbled down everything I could remember from the diary. I wasn't sure why at the time. Maybe because I didn't want to forget what was real and what was fiction. Maybe because some part of me knew I couldn't unread what I'd read, and I needed proof that I wasn't losing my mind. I made a decision the next morning. I wasn't going to confront her, not yet. People think betrayal demands a dramatic response. Screaming, throwing things, storming out. But betrayal, real betrayal, doesn't always make you loud. Sometimes it just makes you still. Still, like water before it freezes. I returned home late, just before she'd wake up. I left the diary right where she left it, on the passenger seat. Like it never moved. When she came down for breakfast, she greeted me like always, sleepy smile, messy hair, eyes that still had the power to break me in two. I played my part. Made coffee. Asked how she slept. Listened as she told me about a dream she had. Something about being lost in a train station. I almost laughed. Lost. That was the first honest thing she'd said in days. I asked her about her plans. She said she had a meeting around noon, might stop by the boutique afterward. Nothing unusual. Nothing out of place. Then, as she slung her purse over her shoulder, her brow furrowed. Wait, did I leave my journal in the car? I nodded, casual. Yeah, on the seat. She blinked, just a flicker of something. Worry. Or guilt. Thanks, she said, too quickly, and turned toward the garage. I watched her go. Not her walk, not her movements, but the tension in her shoulders. The way her hand hesitated before opening the car door. She knew, or at least, she wondered. And in that wondering, I saw the smallest crack in her confidence. But I said nothing. I didn't accuse. I didn't hint. I just kissed her cheek when she came back inside. Diary clutched close to her chest and told her to have a good day. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. And as she pulled out of the driveway, I finally felt it. Not peace. Not yet. But the beginning of clarity. The next move was mine. It took her 3 days to admit something was wrong. 3 days of forced normalcy, shared dinners, soft smiles, casual kisses that tasted like silence. She kept the diary close now. Tucked it in her tote bag, took it upstairs at night like it was made of gold. She never asked if I read it. But every time her eyes met mine, I saw the question flicker behind them. Does he know? She started acting sweeter. She touched my hand more. Laughed a little louder at my jokes. She made pancakes on Sunday, my favorite, blueberry with a hint of lemon zest. We hadn't made pancakes together in months. It wasn't guilt that bothered me. It was the pretending. Because now I could see it, the performance. I knew what her face looked like when she was real. I'd seen it for years. But this wasn't that. This was a cover-up. And the worst part? There was a time I would have fallen for it. I would have let the pancakes and soft kisses make me forget the way her words sliced through me in that journal. I would have told myself it was just a rough patch. A phase. But once you know someone's planning a life without you, it changes the way you hear everything they say. On the third night, she crawled into bed beside me and whispered, "You've been quiet lately." I kept my eyes on the ceiling. Just tired. "You sure?" She reached for my hand. I let her take it. "I feel like you're far away," she said. I turned to face her. She was beautiful in the half-light, even then. Maybe especially then. Because I saw her fully now. Not the illusion. Not the version I'd built in my head. Just her. I nodded. "Yeah, I guess I am." She swallowed hard. "Did something happen?" I didn't answer. Not right away. I just looked at her, and in that look I tried to remember every good thing. Every morning she curled into my chest. Every late night grocery run. Every time she made me laugh when I wanted to break. I held those memories in my hands like delicate glass. Then I set them down. Because memories can't save a relationship that no longer exists. "You said your journal was fiction," I said quietly. She froze. Her fingers tensed around mine. "It is." "Then why was it dated yesterday?" Silence. A long one. She didn't pull her hand away. She didn't rush to explain. She just looked at me, and for the first time in months, there was no mask. Her mouth parted, but no words came. Only the soft sound of breath caught in a lie. And that was it. That was all the answer I needed. I sat up, swung my legs over the edge of the bed. "Mark," she began, but I stood before she could finish. "I'm not angry," I said, and I meant it. I was past anger. I was standing in the ruins of it, looking at the pieces of a life I couldn't put back together. "I just need to know," I said, "when did you stop choosing me?" She covered her face with her hands. "It's not like that." "Then what's it like?" I asked. "Because you didn't just cheat. You wrote love letters to someone else and called it art." Her voice cracked. "I didn't plan it." "No," I said, "you documented it." She started to cry then. Not the performative kind, not the sobbing that begs for forgiveness. Just quiet tears. Slow. Real. But that didn't make it better. That didn't undo the days and months of being the man she stopped seeing. "I thought we were happy," I whispered. "We were," she said. "But I changed. And I didn't know how to tell you." "You could have," I said. "You just didn't want to deal with the consequences." She didn't argue. Because she knew I was right. I packed a bag that night. Not in anger. Not in haste. Just the essentials. A few clothes. My toothbrush. My journal. My real one. The one she never read. The one where I kept track of all the moments I felt her slipping away. She asked if I was leaving for good. I told her I didn't know. Because I didn't. I still loved her. That was the hard part. I still loved the woman who wrote those things. Who said she wanted to feel alive again. I loved her not because she was perfect, but because once we had built something real. But real things, when neglected, still rot. And love, when it turns one-sided, can only survive so long before it becomes something else entirely. I stayed at a friend's place for a week. Turned off my phone. Took walks. Sat with the quiet. And then one day, I opened my own journal and wrote one sentence. Even if she was my story, I can't be her detour. That was when I decided. I wasn't going back. Not because I didn't love her, but because I finally realized I needed to love myself more.